Hello and welcome to Instructional Design from the Ground Up, your home for all things ISD. So, whether you're a teacher, trainer, subject matter expert, manager of the function, or just somebody who's really interested in instructional design and all the cool stuff that we do that we don't tell anybody except on this YouTube channel, you are in the right spot. And today we have a guest that you're going to have so much fun with, you're going to take notes. And Denise is going to introduce Maria, and then we're going to have a great conversation with somebody you're going to want to listen to.
Yes, welcome, Maria. Maria Paula Andrade is a PhD candidate in Latin American history at Vanderbilt University. Before that, she was in English as a foreign language teacher in Brazil and a Portuguese and liberal studies instructor in North Carolina. Maria, it's so great to have you here with us today. It really is. We've been having some fun behind the scenes before we hit the live button, and we're just having some good laughs. And we just can't wait to get into this conversation about the path that you are on right now. You're close to defending your dissertation, close to getting your PhD. So let's talk a little bit about that. What is that like? That must be very exciting and just reflective, exhausting, all of those adjectives. I can't come up with enough adjectives.
Thank you so much for having me, Denise and Chuck. It's a pleasure to be here and to talk to you about, structural design and how to get there, or at least trying in my case.
Well, say hi to all your family because I know they're watching. So give them a little
Yes.
bit of Portuguese. I see the
All
numbers
right.
climbing. So say hi to all of them for us.
Oi, mãe. Oi, Pedro. Oi, todo mundo. Eles estão muito felizes que vocês estão aqui hoje e pediram para eu falar um pouquinho de português.
Oh,
Ok.
that is so fun. Maria,
Oh, it's great.
I should say you and I met on LinkedIn. We had a discussion about something, and I even forget at this point what it was. But I think you're the person that has now been the first person to be with us on this channel on YouTube that I didn't know before or I didn't
Oh,
have as a
wow.
student. Or, I mean, this is a first for me. So I know it's your first YouTube experience, but it's ours too, in the sense that we just thought so much of that conversation I had with you and talking about how you got from A to Z, that this was going to be a great time. So you're at Vandy, you're about to defend your PhD, and congratulations on that. I'm so proud of you for that. But tell
Thank
us
you.
how instructional design got into this whole mix. How did we think about that?
Yeah, so I come from a multidisciplinary background, and I was also very interested in education and learning, and how students, approach learning. Since I was a teacher in Brazil and when I came to the US as well. And when I started the program at Vanderbilt, I had different experiences with technology and history, and that was always in the back of my mind in terms of how could I bring together history and technology and education. And it was, it's a path that is, I would say it's common that I've heard from different people, that they don't come to instructional design
Yeah.
straightforward. They usually take different ways to get there. And I would say in my case was similar. I already had an experience with education and learning, but I didn't know about instructional design. I had heard of it, but I didn't know exactly. And as I started the program at Vanderbilt, I started learning about digital humanities, and they had different um, experiences there for us in terms of how to, work in technology and education and humanities. And one of them involved me spending some time learning about podcasting with the Center for Teaching at Vanderbilt. So that was nice. It was my first experience also participating on a podcast and interviewing someone. So hearing myself was interesting as well. And I realized my accent as I heard myself speaking English. I was like, oh, I didn't realize I had that accent. So that was fun. And I
Oh.
noticed that I wanted to kind of explore that more.
Mhm.
And because of the pandemic, I started thinking more seriously about okay, expanding, um, different types of careers and thinking about different ways of working with education. And I really like history and I like the field. And if I could put both together, it would be great. I just don't see as of right now how I could do that because it tends to be a more traditional career. You have tenure track. And with instructional design, I started to research more about it. I noticed there was a lot of flexibility in how you could do that. And I became very excited about it and started to, research more and find more information on the internet and on YouTube as well. And that's how I kind of started more my interest on it.
You know what? I think that you are taking the path that most of us took. And you're exactly right. Nobody starts out thinking about instructional design. Nobody sits in high school and goes to the guidance counselor and says, I want to be an instructional designer when I grow up. It's only happened once that I know of, and that was Ashley. And that's because her mom was an instructional designer and she lived that way. Everything was a system in that house. And so it came to her naturally. But I came from a lot of different backgrounds. Certainly Denise did. And
Absolutely.
and the beauty of this is no matter what you do, whether it's history or anything that you decide that you want to focus on, instructional design is part of that. So you look
Hmm.
at the organizations that talk about history and that teach history. They need professionals to put those courses together.
That's true.
And more now, they're online and they're packaging these things and putting them together in National Archives, Smithsonian. All these people have instructional designers. And somebody
Mhm.
that goes in with a terminal degree in history and also a certification or a background in instructional design, wow. I mean, that's a combination. So I think if you want to find resonance with all your interests, Maria, you could certainly do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. What is it about ISD when you first learned about it? What is it about ISD that intrigued you the most? What was it that you were like, oh, this just makes so much sense. This really makes me excited. Like I'm really happy that I'm understanding this and learning this right now.
Hmm. Yes, what I really enjoyed is the focus on the learner. I think that's such a nice uh, and obvious, but it's not obvious per se, right? It's when you start learning about it, it's like, oh yeah, it is about the learner. Um, but that isn't, I would say, emphasized in different ways when you are in education. And when I started learning more about ID, that's the first thing that became very clear to me. You start writing your objectives, you start thinking about what the problem that needs to be solved in terms of what is expected of the learner. Is this something that we can fix with training, in particular with instructional design? So all the questions that I saw, especially with your book, Chuck, in thinking about the learner, right? So it's about the learner, the way you put together your material, the analysis that you need to develop in order to create a meaningful learning experience. Um, all these processes that I also saw, there were somehow I had the skills already and I had practiced in different ways with history as well, in terms of the research, in terms of the writing, but especially the focus on the student, the focus on the learner. That to me was what caught most of my attention. Um, that the whole process, the ADDIE process that I started learning more about as well, it was about that. You evaluate the lesson, you evaluate, right? So it doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop in just creating the lesson plan. It's how is this favoring the student and what can we improve when it starts to lose kind of starts to get outdated in some ways. So that to me was really really nice.
That is fascinating. And Leanne, hi to you. Fascinating and constantly evolving. Boy, that is absolutely the truth. And if you have an experience to share with that, Leanne, you could put it up here and we'll post it too. Maria, what I find so fascinating is that someone who is as close to defending a dissertation and who will soon have a terminal degree, and that is not a small accomplishment because if you look at the number of people that started and actually finish it, I mean, the ABD numbers are stunning, and I encourage everybody that's ABD to go finish and get what you deserve because you worked hard for it already. But to have this duality of instructional design background and then the glorious history information and knowledge that you have. What an incredible gift. And I can't believe, Denise, that there isn't someone out there watching this who's going to see this and say,
Mm-hmm.
we could do better with our courseware. And this is the perfect subject matter expert can also do the design work and put that learner first.
No kidding. Subject matter expert and designer, developer, all of that. Detective. I mean, we
Yeah.
joke about putting our Sherlock Holmes hat on to do detective work in the analysis
Yes.
phase, but that really is, to me, that's one of the funnest parts of design. I like designing and I like the analysis phase is just going in there and figuring out what is the problem, because it's always about I think when you're designing any kind of coursework, it's always about figuring out what the actual problem is. What are the pain points that these
Mhm.
students have that once they learn this material, it's going to help them solve and remedy that. So it goes away. Those pain points go away, and that you empower the student with information that allows them to solve these issues that are occurring in their field.
It's true.
Yeah. Uh, so let's put on our instructional design hat. Let's put on our Sherlock Holmes silly hat. And if I had my Sherlock Holmes stuff close to me, I would put my pipe in my mouth. But I won't embarrass Denise like that because every time I do something silly like that, she edits me out, Maria, just so you know.
He makes me,
So
yeah.
she does things to me. So when you think about history and sharing history with students and with learners, what do you think analytically as a designer you have to focus on to be able to get the learner through the minefield of things that history presents to them as obstacles to learning or their ability to work through it and feel comfortable with it? I'm sure that you've already thought a lot about this.
You mean to have history, to have the student work through history?
Yeah, so just in general, if you were going to put together a course for
Mm.
a freshman history class, and I won't even say
Mhm.
specifically what part of history, but just generally within the field, what are the kind of things that you would think that you would need to think about as a designer to make this course inviting and welcoming and make them part of that community of history and what you're trying to share?
That's a good question. I would definitely need to consider the population, right? So, who
Absolutely,
are the
yeah.
students that are coming to this course? Probably try to get from them an understanding of how much they know about, in my case, Latin America.
Hmm.
Have an understanding of misconceptions, maybe that they might
Ah,
have that I would need to work through with them. And get them to learn about history as a human experience, right? So I think
ah,
the connection with the students is in knowing that every history is about human experience and how can we analyze that together and see who are the people involved who are telling these stories through the sources, right? So I read 19th century documents from Brazil, and the documents are from Brazilians who were born and raised in that context. So the way that they thought about life in that context is going to influence their outlook. And I think that's how I would, in trying to put the learner at the center, trying to make this human connection and make them look at history that way as well. But be aware of the feedback, right? And how are they interpreting and understanding that? So find ways to have materials that will ensure that they're not just memorizing content, but they're actually working through that knowledge. Um,
Yeah.
that's some of
The,
the
the,
things that
the,
I
the
it is
application.
amazing, Denise. I just love it. You've already got this in your basket. I mean, this is so cool, right?
Absolutely. Being able to bring learners to that point where they're actually experiencing it in the real world that they exist in so that they can get their hands dirty, so to speak, and roll up their sleeves and experience from a human perspective what it might have been like back in the 19th century, and to be able to have them look at it through that lens. And I think the challenging part would be, in design, no matter what, especially with online course design, is making it engaging and interactive for the student. I think certain subjects lend to that better than other subjects too do. How do you feel about that? About the interactive elements of course design when it comes to history and helping the learner to bring them to that mastery level that you need them to be at for the history that you're teaching them? Have you thought about that?
Um, I would think the interactions, the way that we usually do is to work through primary sources. So have students read the documents. Some professors work with getting students to take parts, let's say, in particular circumstances. So you're going to represent a particular group. Let's say I study public health. So let's say you have different types of physicians that had different beliefs. And if a student is aware of those beliefs, right, bodies of knowledge of the 19th century and competing understandings of health and medicine, you could have students try to make sense of that particular moment in a more interactive way, in which they had to, okay, am I going to immerse myself in in a context of, let's say, an epidemic, and how would a person that believed, for example, in homeopathy versus someone that believed in more traditional medicine would face that. So I think the materials would probably be less digital. It would be more, I would say, analog. Students could use um, materials that they had, probably documents that they would print out, and work in groups and trying to figure out that moment and understand that moment of a particular epidemic or conversations about that particular moment. So I would think to have history, or to have more dynamic, let's say, activities in history, these types of role play could be nice. Group activities or group presentations that they could trying to find things that interested them, and they could bring information to the class. I think that could work as well. The digital part, I haven't considered that yet, how I could bring. But there are, for example, I would think students creating blogs, or maybe interviewing people to discuss, talk to others, subject matter experts, if they wanted to expand the knowledge of a particular historical topic, talk to different professors or other experts, um, and have them either write blogs or use technology in ways that could enhance their knowledge. And I think that's the other conversation that I've seen as well, is to not have technology be the priority, but have technology help the student get to the learning
Right.
objective that you have for them.
To be a tool. Absolutely. When I was a provost, I was assigned the archives for the college. So this building was about the size of a city block full of, we had so many vaults and so many things full of wonderful things. But the archivist always made a point of doing almost weekly oral histories with people. And one of the discussions that we used to have all the time is, how are we going to make this benign for the person that's coming in? Are we just going to do audio recordings? Are we going to do very subtle video recordings? Um, and all those kind of things. And I would think, and tell me where I'm wrong, Maria, but it would seem like one thing that would really bring history to life would be having someone give oral histories to a group. If you could do that digitally, if they would agree to do that. So somebody who was part of an event, or, you know, part of a military campaign, or a medical transition within a culture and a country. And at first I was, okay, that's cool. But then I started sitting through them and I started listening to them, and my jaw would drop. I mean, the things you can hear in oral histories when you ask really open questions and get people to think about their history and the impact they've had on a country or a discipline or anything else. And that really got me fired up about history and thinking about it in a different way.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would have loved somebody to teach me history the way we're talking about teaching history right now, because my experience with it was not wonderful. I mean, it was back in undergrad days, but it was not wonderful. It was not memorable. It was actually memorizing data, facts,
Hmm.
taking quizzes, and just quizzing me on what I could remember. And gosh, like JP the dev here says, gamification could be great with history. I
It's
totally
true.
agree. I think that would be fun to explore. What kind of gamification
Yeah,
can we do
what
here?
a great idea. Oh, there you go, Maria. So first thing, we're going to get you and Dr. Miko from University of
Yes.
North Carolina, who's Mr. Gamification now. And we'll get you two together, maybe on here if you want to do it. And we could talk about how we could roll out some gamification ideas that
It's true.
would support your learning adventures. Wouldn't that be fun?
That would
Yeah,
definitely.
he's got Dr. Nino, Dr. Miko Nino has amazing ideas when it comes to gamification, and he's been on our
Oh
show talking
wow.
about it before. But I
Yeah,
think that would be a lot of fun, just
we
sitting
should do
back
that.
and watching it unfold.
Yeah, put us in two little boxes,
Yeah,
and
we'll just be little
you and
ones.
Dr. Miko. I bet you two. I mean, you're not that far apart, really. He's in Pembroke, so um, close-ish.
True, true. Yeah.
So, Maria, I'm just so happy that you're here with us. Was it so bad
Thank
for your
you.
first YouTube? Was it not too
it's
bad?
it's been great. It's been
Yeah.
great.
So, are you going to promise me you're going to come back?
Definitely, for
Would
sure.
Would you like to do something on gamification with Dr. Miko? Because I
Oh
know that
yeah.
he would love to do that, and it might be great on here to just push around some ideas.
I think
Wouldn't
that would
that
be
be terrific?
so fun. I think that would be because we haven't really done that.
No, we've talked about it. We haven't done it.
Like
And
brainstorming, having like a brainstorming session on here, and then have the viewers chime in with their
oh
ideas
yeah,
within the comments.
absolutely.
I think that could be a lot of fun.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
Definitely.
you'll
Yes.
like Dr. Miko. He was one of my students who, just like Denise, went out and excelled and left
Nice.
left me in the dust. But that's okay. I'm happy with that. He could even be watching tonight. I don't know if he's around tonight or not. But so if that's okay with you, Maria, what we're going to do, we're going to put this in the book and think about what other ways can we work with you? Because I think this is such a fascinating topic. Obviously, you have spent a lot of time thinking about this. You have incredibly good instincts in terms of
Thank
instructional
you.
design. And I'm not just saying it because we're all three here together, but I think Denise knows me well enough that these are kind of second nature to me now. I can I can take out of the aura when people are good designers, and you are a
Yes.
good designer. So
Thank you.
we want to find some other ways to share you on here if you're open for that. And if you have
Definitely,
any
yes.
other ideas, we can do that too. But I think the gamification, if you're up for that, wouldn't that be cool, Denise?
I would love that because
Yeah.
of course, I want to learn about gamification more and listen to this brainstorming session, participate in it. And I think it could be a lot of fun because I think, you could take any subject and especially history, if you think about it, like history and
Hmm.
ISD, at first, it doesn't, you're like, what's the pathway to that, right?
Yeah.
And there are certain subjects that it lends itself to ISD, and you think, oh, yeah, of course, right? But certain ones, yeah. So I think that would be fun to take a subject like history and brainstorm ways to bring it to life even more through gamification.
Oh, that'd be so
Definitely.
cool.
I agree.
So, Maria, say goodbye in Portuguese to all your family and friends because we want to be bilingual on here and be welcoming and
Ok.
inviting.
Um, a gente está terminando, eu acredito. Então, obrigada pela participação, todo mundo. That's
Perfect.
that's about
Perfect.
it.
It's such a beautiful
Maria,
language.
oh, thank you so much for being with us. It's an honor to have you on here. And one thing we're going to do for sure, once you get through your defense on your dissertation and you get all the paperwork signed off and you heading down with the robes, we're going to have you back on here for at least a 5-minute celebratory video that we're going to put on the channel so that we
Thank you
can
so
let
much.
everybody know that I know you're going to get through it. I'm not concerned about that, but we're going to share that on here. So we need to get a robe video. Maybe we'll do a TikTok. Denise and I can dance. We'll do one of the TikTok challenges.
Sure.
That
I'll
it's
sing.
not
You
immoral.
dance.
And can we do that, Maria? Can we have some video of you in your robe?
For sure. Definitely.
Okay.
Let's do
Well, we're going to
it.
do that. That's going to be so much fun. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been such a great experience.
Oh, it was for us. So everybody watching, we are Instructional Design from the Ground Up, your YouTube channel. If you're a teacher, trainer, instructional designer, SME, manager of the function, somebody's just interested in this crazy stuff that we do. And if you would like to subscribe to the channel, last I looked, we were at $2.99. So whoever subscribes
Woo.
next could be 300, which means absolutely nothing to anybody. But
It means a lot
if
to
you like,
us.
oh, okay, it means a lot to us, I've been told. So if you want to do that, that would be fun. But please join us. It's Tuesday Night Live, 6 Eastern, depending on what time of year it is, daylight savings or standard time. And we always have incredible guests like Maria on here. So join us, please, and thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.